system is dialing.
That it is. System is dialing.
It's still freezing. So I just open the door when it buzzes.
Wait. Let me call him.
No, open the door.
Yeah, let me give a ring.
Just got my hand ready.
Hey, it's me, Jed. I'm here.
Okay,
All right, awesome.
Thanks, Jed.
No problem. All right, we're gonna get it open. Try to open it. Never mind. It doesn't work. All right.
I guess it's just gonna come down and open it.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Do you see him?
No, I don't see it. I'm just looking down. Oh, wow. Why the hell are cards in my pocket?
Cards? Dude, you remind me of Paul Rossetti. Jeez.
Oh, hey, Dylan.
Yo!
What's up?
Very. After dark or during the dark? My friend, hallowed nights. Hello, Turbo Diesel. Salama Shalanore, man. Hang sun well. Good morning to you. We're hanging out here in the studio, the Grand Master Chamber, where it all happens. The Dream. Let me just adjust some of these settings that I'm not satisfied with. Oh, see, did the wrong color. Okay, we'll do that one. Yeah. So what's going on, chat? It's a late night stream. I don't want to do that much, but I would like to do a study on global Christianity. So in the past, we've done a study on, I'll just show you. Who wants to come into a stream and just see some dude talking on his couch? I mean, some of you probably do. That ain't my problem, though. All right, let's share screen because I think it's a little more entertaining. So this is the Dream headquarter. Oh, wow. That dude's live right now. Go to playlists, see the state of Orthodoxy today. And so a couple months ago, I started this series about the state of Orthodoxy in the Middle East, state of Orthodoxy in Greece, state of Orthodoxy in Russia. And there's some other videos that are older that kind of go with this topic. So there's my discussion with Kyle about online Orthodoxy in America, a more HD video I did. This is a super popular HD video I did, at least by the standards of my channel. And then I've done 1, 2, 3 on Russia. So now you kind of know, like, this is what we're talking about. So today's stream will be kind of like that. Whoops, I disappeared on y'all. So today's stream will be kind of like that. Let's take a look here. Oh, we have Dream After Dark. Dream Early Morning. Pops in Random. Father Swaydon. Father Joseph. Old Man Has to Get All the Recovery Sleeps. From NFTU, True Orthodox News, and Apologetics. Shlama says Chris Matthew. Right. Surprised we have any viewership at all at this dark crack of the hour. Emphasis on crack. All right. Well, let's yeah, I enjoy my own company too much. Let's get to the topic. So, in previous videos, I've talked at length about what have I talked about, guys? Population density. So see a map like this one, right? Everybody can see the map. Chris, thanks for asking. My day's actually going quite well. It is in fact satisfactory. I wasted time in a mythic dungeon with my girlfriend on World of Warcraft. And someone decided to leave after spending 25 minutes slaughtering corrupted dwarves. So, other than that, the day's going decent. Got some new car insurance. Got my vehicle insured. Went to Ogilvy Station. I was on the phone. While I was wandering around, my girlfriend was on the phone. And then, what else did I do? We walked over to the West Loop. She had a job interview. That's good. Long walk. Very foggy, humid day here in Chi-Town. And man, if you ever come here or move here, you'll notice that the thermostats, like the weather app, does not work. It'll say, oh, it's 57. And then it feels like 41 with a wind chill that blasts you into the high 30s. Then other days it says 57 Fahrenheit and it feels like 60, 65 even. So you never know what to wear, quite frankly. Always overdress in Chicago, at least until summer, at least until you've gotten to the meat of spring. Yeah. Chris Matthews says people still play WoW in 2025. Yeah, it's still the biggest MMO. Nothing will kill WoW. Dr. Martinez says, yay, I caught a Jeem stream. Indeed you did. Marcane, 10 AUD, thanks for the super chat. He says, play Fallout 2, it's good. It's good. Norm McNormalson, the normie. Jeem is Skibbity Sigma. Okay. A couple more and then we're going to go back to the map. We got Jeem doing dailies on WoW. I don't do dailies. I was just doing my weekly mythic. Dionysius says, at Jeem, do public transit. It's better than driving. You're clearly not from Chicago, my friend. I know. We walked everywhere today. It was a good 1.5 hour, 1.5 mile walk. I mean, stopped at some weird boutiques. There's this boutique where these people were just kind of talking really loudly about some romance novel they were reading, like the owners of the store. There was a huge like dog in the store too. I don't mind the dog, but it seemed like I was in their living room. Like, am I in a store? People are eating burritos and they're talking about some like romance novel. And do I shop or do I go into the fridge and see what's going on? So I didn't understand the vibe. Yeah. GMG9 Uzi says, yo, Jeem, when is the Misunderstood Bible 3 coming out? Well, I have 2 books coming out this week. So last week, The Place of the Believers came out. I noticed that some of you YouTube nerds did not buy that book, which is fine because I didn't think most people on YouTube who know me from YouTube would care that much for that book. That's more of a cultural book. So that's all about the history of peoples of the Middle East. I'm not like, look, I'm trying to grift my books because I'm getting an audience here tonight, but I'm not going to share a screen. I do that every night. Just click the link in my video description. You don't need me to hold your hand. So check out The Place of the Believers if you love Middle Eastern culture. You at least want to learn more about it. Then we have this week a book called How to Write Books by me, the master, is coming out. And then I'm getting my author copy of the Misunderstood Bible version 3 so that I can read it in the comfort of my home and make sure that the formatting is good. With the current formatting, that book is 500 pages long now. Yeah. It's 500 pages long. Anyway, here in South Texas, we have only 2 seasons, summer and hot summer. Yeah, I like that. I've not played Final Fantasy. Yo, can I elaborate what I meant when I said Ethiopian Orthodox have a problem? Sure. If you've been to Assyrian parades in Chicago, no, but I have seen their headquarters. It's not far from my old man's house. Jeem, elbow cough, elbow cough. I think you probably did the emoji and it just didn't come up right. What's wrong with transit in Chicago? Depends on the area you're in. I got the Misunderstood Bible 2nd edition because that's your magnum opus. Well, now that's the magnum numbnuts because because version 3, little slip of the tongue there, is the real opus. All right, let's get into it. That's enough, guys. All right, so if we take a look at this map, we see the percent of a population that is Christian. Now, in this map, I have to warn some of you guys. Do you like me in the corner here, or should I appear up there? Like, should I be here? But then you don't see as much. I think we'll go like this. I don't care about Arvol's Ozark, but thank you for the super chat very much, Dionysius. I'll get back to that in one moment. So if we look at this map, this is really just a map of who claims in government census that they are Christian. As you can see, almost all the Pacific Islands are Christian. Now, I think that most of them actually are Christian. But if we look at the United States and Canada, we're in the 65 range? 65% of the country of Canada is Christian? I don't know. As in, if they practice Christianity? I don't know about that, Chief. France looks like maybe, what color is that? I think 50 to 65. I'm going to call that's absolutely not true. The UK is well below 50% in terms of practicing people. So this map is really not that useful, but it's a good map to show population differences in terms of proportionality. So Russia is this huge country. It is on paper majority Christian. Then you look at China, which is smaller geographically, but 10 times the population of Russia in terms of numbers. But Christians are only 1 to 7%. However, being 1 to 7%, I think the real number is around 4%. 4% of a country of 1.3 billion is actually pretty substantial. I think there's 90 million Christians in China. We'll discuss who they are and what they believe. India, there's 30 million Christians in India, and they don't even crack 1% of the country. I mean, can you imagine a country where you have 30 million people and that's not even 1%? It's baffling. It's baffling. But there's more Christians in India than there are Christians in some of these areas that are colored dark navy blue, being, 100% Christian. Like Iceland, Greenland, especially, this enormous empty country. Even Ireland there are less Irish Christians in Ireland. And I think including the entire diaspora, if you're not including people who are just partially Irish, there are more Christians in the Indian subcontinent than there are Irish Christians. And yet nobody really pays any attention to Indian Christians. If Chinese Christians, there's even more. So this map is not that useful for getting the exact number of Christians. However, it does tell us, if you already know going into this map what the population of every country is, and then you see 1 to 7%, you can ascertain how many Christians there are. I happen to be the master of geography, cartography. So I don't make maps. I mean, my self-made maps are garbage, but I do like looking at maps. And I can tell you straight away where the population centers are. We're going to then switch to this map, which it's the thumbnail of this video. Now, it's really low quality, so I do apologize. But as you can see, this map gives us a slightly better idea of population density. It's not that good because some areas look to be the same population, but they're not. But the point is, you can see where in the world human beings actually live. Obviously, 65% of Russia is empty space. Western China is pretty empty compared to Eastern China. North Africa, much of that is empty. Not entirely, but it's significantly lower population than the coast. Now, the Middle East looks like it has a tiny population here because it's just going by Christians. So Egypt is really dark blue, but the rest of the Middle East is not. But it's a good way of looking at population density. So the purpose of these kind of maps is to show how many people there are in the world and how many of them happen to be Christian. Now, if you go back to this map, which I think is quite important, actually, there's another one that I would like to show you guys that I think is also quite a fair gander at world religion. I'm just trying to think which one has better. I think this one has a better color scheme, quite frankly. Because I want to discuss what these types of Christians are, who they are, what do they even believe. More importantly, do they practice it? All right. One of these is not loading. You boys will have to give me a second. I don't know why that's not loading. Give me 1 second. Let's see if I can just open this in a new tab or something. No, doesn't want to work. Well, we can kind of forget about that, to be quite frank. I think you all know where religions are in the world. Like, if you don't know that India is Hindu, I don't know if you belong on this channel. Let's take a look at this map. Slightly different. I know they're all blue, so you might be confused. You might be a little bit confused on that. And yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that, Andrew. It's not 1 to 7%. So these maps are not 100% correct. But it's just to give a basic visualization to the viewers. Egypt is more than 7%. I would say it's probably 15. Reasonable estimate would be 15% Christian. I also like his videos. Now, if we take a look at this map, guys, this map shows the importance of religion in the world. I think I've shown this one before. As we can see, this is self-reported. First of all, there's a few problems because we don't know what it means when someone says, I'm religious, compared to what someone might say in another part of the country. But if we can take this in the most general stance, we can see that Europe, Canada, and Russia are not as religious as Africa and Latin America. So the problem that we have here is what types of Christianity there are, where Christianity is growing, and who practices it the most. So like I said, I'm trying to get this one map going that I thought would be great for us to see. But for some reason, it just doesn't want to load. maybe my internet. Neither of these are working. Give me 1 second, guys. I know you guys can be patient when you want to be. You know what? Maybe I'll just do this. There, I'll just share it in the preview form because it's not allowing me to actually open up the full map. So if we take a look at this map, or even better, if we take a look at this map, which is the one I originally wanted to show you. Okay, this is just a map of majorities. So obviously for Middle Eastern Christians, it's not going to really show. It'll just show where there's an absence of a full Muslim supermajority. You can clearly see that in Egypt. These are where Christianity is the largest. But the purpose of this map is really to show where the religions are in the world and where Christianity is growing the most. Obviously, there's a lot of inconsistencies, such as Scandinavia, Iceland, and Greenland being counted as majority Protestant when we all know they're not. Now, taking a look at this map, we can see that the world populations that are growing the most, Sub-Saharan Africa, parts of Latin America, the rest of Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands, are not going to be practicing Eastern Orthodox or Oriental Orthodox Christianity. Now, there is a lot of missionary activity underway in order to convert a lot of these people. The most success so far has been found by the Eastern Orthodox churches in Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, and in Nigeria as well. But still, compared to Catholics and Protestants, they're absolutely outflanked. So the truth of the matter is that Christianity is not decreasing in most of the world. It's actually increasing and is becoming way more spread out. So even just as recently as the 90s, you could say, Europe and North America, especially the US, are centers where there's an enormous amount of Christianity. The rest of the world is not as Christian compared to Europe and North America, at least in terms of population. But that's not really true anymore. As Canada and the US and Europe become significantly less religious, Christianity is growing in places that it didn't really exist in before. So we talked about China. India has actually a pretty old Christian community. So I wouldn't say it's growing there in the same way. There are some evangelical Protestants that are growing in the eastern part of India, and you can kind of see that here on the map. I don't know if they would constitute an absolute majority, but that's what the map is at least saying for here. So Protestantism, and when we say Protestantism, we mean evangelical, Baptists, etc., are growing quite a lot in sub-Saharan Africa, in India, in China, and other parts of Asia that for most of the last 2,000 years were not Christian. Whereas the areas that were Christian for a long time during the medieval period and the Middle Ages, those places are losing Christianity, not as drastically as they were in the last 5 years, but they're still losing it quite a bit. So France, obviously, the UK, Scandinavia has already lost most of it, and the irreligious parts of Eastern Europe. That's where the population is going down. So we can't have an unrealistic expectation of what the world's going to look like, religion-wise, because things are changing. Places that you wouldn't associate with Christianity in the past, like China, like South Korea, like Southeast Asia, are becoming much more Christian, okay, in terms of numbers, population size. Whereas places that you would associate with Christianity historically, France, right, Germany, those places have now lost much of their Christian population. And so when a lot of people in Germany say they are Christian in a government census, whether they're saying they're Lutheran or Roman Catholic, many of the times they're not practicing, even more so in Scandinavia. So with France, I would ascertain that maybe 15-20% of the people of France actually care about Catholicism, even just a little bit. I would say that for Germany, it's probably closer to 30%. But again, you're going to have a lot of liberal Christians who aren't necessarily sticking to any kind of tradition. In Russia, there's not a lot of liberal Christians at all. If you're Orthodox, you're Orthodox. End of story. However, a lot of the people that claim to be Orthodox are not that religious there. So we have kind of a weird dichotomy where places that were not historically Christian are becoming more Christian. At the same time, they're not getting the hardcore traditional Orthodoxy that we're seeing on the internet. Now, the internet is important, even though I ratted on it in the last episode, because it gives us the ability to reach people that otherwise wouldn't be reachable. And that's definitely very important. But after that period of reaching people that were not able to be reached in the past, there does need to be some boots on the ground initiative. Otherwise, these places are just going to be, 99% evangelical. And then the 1% of people who go on the internet and look up cool theology videos are going to end up being Orthodox. So we don't really want that to be the case. So we don't want places to become Christian and they're 99% not Orthodox and 1% Orthodox. And the only people who are Orthodox are people who sit around stimulating their intellect all day instead of going out and living the faith, which is the exact opposite of what Orthodoxy says to do. I'm going to open up the calls because, quite frankly, this topic probably is suited better for an actual video and not just a live stream. But I wanted to give a brief introduction to it because I thought you guys might like it. Let me pin that comment, and then some of you guys can come in. All right, pin message. Okay, feel free to come in, guys. All right, let's scroll up and read some comments. Dionysius, thoughts on Arval's Ozark commune. Does he actually live in a commune in the Ozarks doing Platonism or whatever? It's kind of weird. Okay. True Orthodox W, he says, because the world Orthodox are not as religious as people on the internet say they are. That's true. That part's true. No one wants to call in. G Machine, MT. Thank you. Many Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo do not have a good grasp on the Church Fathers, and they don't study. Our Coptic siblings place a greater emphasis on learning the Church Fathers than we do. It's a shame. The primary reason why Orthodox Christianity went from 54% in 1984 to 43% in 2007 is people are confused as to why the Church does what it does. Is there another comment to that? Yeah. Protestantism is actually large in Ethiopia. It's not, the Musals did not take over and force people to become Muslim or anything. I think Ethiopia is like 30% Muslim, and then 43% Tewahedo Oriental Orthodox, and then another 20 or so percent mix of evangelicals and some weird guys in the Southwest who do paganism. And the evangelicals are growing, and they're mainly taking from the Tewahedo. They're not taking from the Muslims that much. They're not taking from the pagans, so to speak. There's not that many pagans there to begin with. So why would people always assume, oh, if we had this awesome traditional Christianity, our life would be perfect, and everyone would just realize how awesome it is. But as our friend here is saying, without some kind of study, people don't understand why they're doing what they're doing, and then an evangelical can come over and say, hey, guess what? You guys are doing idolatry. You have to stop. You have to become evangelical. And what do? They just become evangelical because they don't have a good answer to it. And they might think, this 3-hour liturgy is stupid. Maybe I want to do other stuff. And I did talk about China. Andrew says, do you believe the Middle East will follow the West in becoming secularized by a few decades? I do not think that, as a matter of fact. I think that the non-Arabic speaking countries, so those aren't really Middle East to begin with, like Turkey and Iran are already becoming very secular. Iran for sure, because the reasoning is that they have stable countries, even though they don't have great economies. They have stable countries with this weird authoritarian, hardline, fanatic Islam government. And that always ends up with people actually just not liking their religion anymore and leaving and questioning it. So you say, well, why doesn't that happen in the Gulf monarch countries? Because the Gulf monarch countries, they kind of do something similar to what the Byzantines used to do. So if you look at the Eastern Roman Empire, that is a secular head of state, the king or the emperor. And the religious were dealing with the liturgical and clerical matters, and they would advise the king or the emperor. But the emperor didn't run around with a sword forcing people at gunpoint to be more religious. Whether you were religious or not is kind of something between you and your family at home. Now, the Eastern Romans did have parts of history where they would go over and attack the Miaphysites for having the wrong type of Christianity. But even that wasn't entirely theologically motivated. Some of it was just politics. Like, we want everybody in this country to have the same religion, but we're not going to force you to practice, we're not going to enforce you to be super religious is what I'm saying. So when you have Iran and Turkey, we have Erdogan's government, when you have the Ayatollahs in Iran since 1979, trying to force this hardline version of Islam in the country, it doesn't work. And especially the youth with the internet want to just rebel against whatever is the uncool thing that the majority is doing. So I think in those countries, they're going to be very secular, or at least they'll have a large secular population. Whereas in the Arabic speaking countries, that was never the case. Islam was just kind of part of the culture, and the states were never ruled by a priest or by an imam or anything. So you never really had this lashing out against that. So I don't think so, but it won't be fanatical war stuff that we've been seeing. All right, hello, James. You're here.
Hey, good to be on again.
How's it going?
Doing good. How you been, man?
Quite good.
Yeah, I just been busy with work and disconnecting a bit from all the online orthodoxy.
Cool.
I still like to pop in for like certain like big apologetic streamers, like Jay Dyer and stuff, just to like troll in the comment section for a minute or two. But yeah, the topic I was actually interested before I go to sleep here. Like you said, you're going to touch upon like Chinese, like what version of Christianity they're practicing. I understand they got like an underground church thing going, so I just don't know much about it. But
Yeah, so Christianity in China is interesting. There's a sizable population of Roman Catholics. The Catholics there, I mean, they just do Catholicism. That's kind of it. There's not much more to say about that. But they're not the majority. The majority of Christian converts in China are really kind of low ground, low church, almost non-denominational, evangelical type Christians, and they sometimes mix their Christianity with like Confucianism and Taoist thought. They don't worship other gods or anything, but philosophically and culturally, they'll mix it with those things. So that type of low church evangelicalism is by far the largest.
wasn't it evangelical or some Protestant type that preached to that one revolutionary before the communists came to power? They caused a mass. He thought he was Jesus's brother, right? You know the guy I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, the Taiping Rebellion. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say he was, an evangelical in the way that they are today. I actually don't remember what sect he was, but he did, in fact, claim to be the brother of Christ and fomented an enormous civil war, which ended with an erasure and crackdown of Christianity in China, which also meant some of the really tiny ancient Nestorian communities were also wiped out as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. I think it's a prime example of what a bad catechesis can do to you, right? If you're just, all on your own. I mean, we see this all the time on the internet. People delude themselves thinking it's like apotheosis and not theosis. You know what I'm saying? It's like they become their own authority. It's like a form of idolatry.
Yeah. I
So
agree. I mean, I tried my best to do the whole come at it by yourself thing, and it doesn't work. That's why the more intelligent Protestants, like the Calvinists and so on, they'll say, "Well, we do have a way of reading the Bible, and you have to read it our way." That's what the
yeah,
Catholics say too. So,
yeah.
I
The
guess,
buck has to stop somewhere, and yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't know if you remember the last few times I came on. It's been a while, but like me coming to Orthodoxy, I was a lifelong atheist, and so researching Christianity to try to debunk it, right, as a hater, like I've always realized, and since reading the scriptures, it's like Christianity is always sort of, sadly going to be a minority, especially like the actual body of Christ, that God established. It's always going to be a persecuted. That's like the entire history of the church almost. So this persecution and I like the thing that appeals to me about Orthodoxy isn't the judgment claims, like us knowing God's judgment, because God can come to anyone he wants, right? But more
right.
so like our hopefulness, our prayers for the dead, and our prayers that, let's say there's a guy in China, and I don't deny like people can have a relationship with Christ even if they're ignorant about everything, right? It's like how do I explain it? It's like if they just have the book of Matthew, if even like quarters of the book of Matthew, but that's enough, right? I think that would be what, like a baptism of desire, hopefully, right? Or prayers and stuff like that. But like these are just divine mysteries that I feel like people. It's hard to say, but people just don't like. It's so intellectual in the West,
Right.
It's not so much embracing of the faith, like a spiritual embracing of the mystery.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I would say, in terms of China and other places, and then I'm going to let these other guys on
Yeah.
in a second. You can stay, though. What I would say there is that, you know, the belief is not that Orthodoxy has to be the majority everywhere, and that everybody has to do it properly. If even only 15% of a country, like for example, Russia, is maybe a quarter practicing Orthodox. It's not 99% Orthodox. That quarter is still a significant amount of people, and it's done enough to influence the country. And as long as those Christians are a good influence, that in itself is already part of the job being complete. The job isn't everybody on earth has to believe the exact same thing, or else what do? We gotta decapitate everybody. Let me see what Dionysius says. $2 USD. Thanks for the super chat. So, do you think the Romanovs deserved canonization? I mean, that it's not really up to what I think. It's more of just a personal question, but I mean, that's clearly a very important part of history. And I'll just put it this way: there have been a lot of people that have been canonized for less. So not every saint wrote 9,000 books about metaphysics and then
Yeah.
cut off a dragon's head and then rode the dragon off a glacier and saved
Most
the world.
things they're very like not fools for Christ, but they're very humble in their education, to put it in a nice way. Like I just saw a video on Saint Simeon, the man who was on the pillar for
Yeah.
most of his life, and I mean, just wow, right? It's like it's like just praying, and that spiritual connection was enough. And it's enough. You read this over and over again, like Saint Mary of Egypt and stuff like that. So it's not like intellectual. The nous doesn't just mean your mind; it means your heart. So
Definitely the heart is huge.
Yeah.
And I've tried to really reel people back from the over intellectual stuff. I'm going to bring on these guys now. Death to Compromise says, you, James, you know what's up, apparently. Let me get Turbo Diesel in here. How's it going, Turbo Diesel?
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, I'm your only Lithuanian viewer.
All right, well, welcome.
Congratulations.
Welcome in.
Yeah, so I'm Orthodox. Probably the only guy in my family who's Orthodox, and
same here.
The situation of Orthodoxy in Lithuania is that most of our liturgies, most of our churches are done in Russian, and so in order to evangelize in this political climate of everyone hating Russia for some reason, and I don't think it's possible until we canonically separate from Moscow. Not that I have a personally problem with them, but I think that's necessary, and do our liturgies in Lithuanian. I have
a question for you.
Yeah.
So is it like a Lithuanian row corps? Because I know I'm in the States, right? We have the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. I go to a Greek parish, by the way.
Mhm.
And I know row corps, they were like, since the Iron Curtain, they didn't really come back into under the authority really of Moscow for another 15 years. It's only like till recently or something like that. So is it like autocephalous for you guys, or is it like completely like your bishops are straight from the Russian Moscow? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, most of them are Russian, but like we don't benefit from Moscow Patriarch at all, like financially, that kind of stuff. We only are in communion like, canonically, and we had a handful of priests here who have rebelled and slandered our metropolitan, saying that he supports the war or something like that, and they separated from us. They got excommunicated. One of them, in fact, even said on his Facebook page, like, if you don't feel comfortable in Russian churches, you can go to a Roman Catholic church to receive communion.
Well, is that the same case in Estonia and Latvia? I know there's Russian Orthodox minority there as well.
Estonia is a bit more persecuted, I believe. Like, for some reason, it's kind of strange, but Lithuania is pretty chill. Like, we're chilling. Our metropolitan is very good. Is a very good diplomat. So he handles that side of and so we don't get attacked. Like yeah, sure, you can have like a couple of kooky fellas on the internet saying that we're Russian spies or whatever, but that's about it.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that sadly from my like I said, I go to a Greek parish, so there's all the conflict with that, but that's like not the right spirit to have at all. Like I listen to like Saint Paisios, and he would say like to comment on the ongoings, the geopolitics of patriarchs or whatever. As first off, it's not our place. It's like you're supposed to be obedient to God's will, right? And if God's will is to test you with a bad whatever, right, a bad priest or whatever, it's like it's one thing, right? But it's another thing to try to foment schism, right?
Yeah.
Because to like want to create more schism is just as bad as heresy, and heresy is worse than murder, right? So
Yeah, I agree. You guys seem to have good heads on your shoulders there. We don't want Orthodox Christianity to be like a ethno-political thing. It happens to exist in these certain countries. There happen to be countries and people who belong to like an ethnic church. And that's fine, but it shouldn't be the cause of war and catastrophe. Obviously, the Russian-Ukraine war, it's not been going on for years, and most of the people dying are Orthodox Christians. So
it's pointless. It's literally at the machinations for the world, right? It's not, what I'm saying? It's just for the will of secular leaders, and it's a travesty. And ethnophilitism has been condemned for a long time, and this is unanimous between the Greeks, the Russians. That's the biggest thing. It's like you tell someone you go to an Orthodox church, and then it has a jurisdiction in front of the same. Does that mean there's only XYZ type of people going there? And maybe
right.
I'm fortunate to being this like. I gotta mute myself.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, definitely. So Turbo, thanks for giving us an introduction into that. Is your family primarily Reformed or Catholic?
Most of them are Catholic, and I tried. The funny thing is, like, I'm trying to introduce some Orthodoxy into their lives, and one thing I would disagree with Jay, and his best argument against Roman Catholicism is to pile up all these documents and contradictions, and like how the papes have contradicted themselves, and they're like, "What do you mean the Pope is infallible?
Yeah.
What do you mean?" It's like they don't even know that. So I'm like, all right, where do you go from here? So you just show them videos of like this year's Pascha was joined, or not joined, but like on the same date. And I just showed them like how we celebrate Pascha, and it's glorious. It's very cheerful, that kind of stuff. And they're like, why aren't we doing this?
Right. Yeah. Throughout most of history, when a country was converted either from a different type of Christianity or from paganism, it didn't require 4 years of documents to convince people. It was mainly look at our way of life, look at this celebration. If you really want to delve into it, you can read the scripture and see if it matches. And most of the time, that was enough for most people. So I would say that is true. I'm just going to read a couple comments here. About just from the comments there, people are arguing about the Romanovs. SMY says Christianity is dying in Europe. I assume he means Western Europe because he mentioned Italy. Yeah, Italy reports itself to be a very Catholic country, but depending on where you are in Italy, I guess that it really depends. Like, I know that northern and central Italy are not very religious, but the south is a little more religious than that. But I haven't lived there. We have someone from Hawaii says hi from Maui. Awesome. Thank you for coming into the channel. But yeah, so I definitely agree with you guys. If you're reading the history of the late Ottoman Empire, the Fanar or the Fanariats are these like elitist ethnophilist Greeks that were kind of unleashed by the Turks to go and cause mischief amongst the Orthodox in the Balkans. So there's a long history of this, and it's important for all of us to be able to sidestep that, especially now in the age of the internet, when we're trying to get more people to come toward us, and they don't want to see memes in Cyrillic about wars and Putin and Soviet stuff. They want to see what about God? What is this about God?
Yeah. What should be your biggest concern, especially as a catechumen, is your relationship with your spiritual father and actually learning what it means to live out the faith and like what practices you should start doing, and sort of disconnect from the internet for a little bit. It's like I forgot who said it. I know it was I think it was a famous metropolitan, but he said some priests and some bishops, they're really good shepherds, and then other ones they're really good farmers, right? Which is an allegory to how like some of them, they're wrapped up in the geopolitics, and I can recognize the influences, especially in the Greek, what I'm saying, with the Constantinople. It's like all that money that gets funneled to them. It's like,
Sure, yeah.
and it's like
There's issues on both sides for certain. But
yeah, I see it also with the Russians, but here's the thing: it's like this is the beauty of the church. It's synodal, right? And the good will always, like, Christ conquered already, right? And so, no matter these tribulations, it's sort of like a way to temper us, like in a crucible. It's like it's no matter each generation, they're going to have faults. It doesn't matter in the long run, right? In the short run, we should still care about it. I'm not saying not to, pay attention to when what's it called? Is it Edo? It's like I can't pronounce his name. Pitaphora. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Elpidophoros, yeah.
Yeah, like he says some out there stuff, right? But what is his stuff? Is that really? How's your like community, right? How's your parish life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. One quick thing. So we have me as F has joined the party. Let me just read 2 comments. Dr. Martinez says Christianity is very much dying in Western and Northern Europe. And then Riot Cult says F Phanariats, greetings from Macedonia. Well, that's obviously not surprising. Okay, so welcome to the new kid. You are in the chat. What would you like to talk about or contribute to the discussion?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just, I think actually last time I was on, like, which was a while ago, months ago, I was talking about, how Palestinians don't have their own church and how the Greeks kind of are holding on to their land and selling to the Israelis. And, it's just like, to me, it's, I've said this before, it's ridiculous that you have Kenyan Greeks, you have Palestinian Greeks, and you have Brazilian Greeks, quote unquote, and they have no Greek ancestry whatsoever. They don't speak Greek. They have no attachment. And it's just like very, very like just strange to see that there's, there's a big enough community in Uganda itself. It's 1 million people,
Right.
Well,
the thing is, if you look
Kenya,
at the image I pulled up real quick, you'll see the cross, obviously, on 2 sides. You have the national flag of Greece, and then you have a more Byzantine or Eastern Roman flag. And so originally, when Orthodoxy was spreading, it was the Roman identity, which is like a civic identity. It's not a racial identity, that was supposed to spread. And so ideally, that's what would have happened. But now that's been kind of confused as an ethnic identity. And you're right, it doesn't really make that much sense for people in Uganda and Brazil to say that they are, in fact, Greeks or something. So I would agree with that sentiment.
Bless their hearts. I think that's I think it's cute. I think it's endearing, right? Because I don't blame them, right? They see some beauty to the culture or to the church itself, and so they associate it. They see the Greekness of it. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, it can be good. In limits, it can be good. I agree with that. I was going to comment one thing, which is that all this Greek and Russian drama, while all that's been happening, smaller churches like the Georgians and the Romanians have been pursuing quite a lot of good apologetic and missionary activity. So we shouldn't forget those churches as well. Like, it's not just content.
Yeah,
people in
I
Moscow.
belong to the Serbian church, right? And basically it, and it's like, it's very strange to see like, oh, there's one priest from Latin America who's doing stuff there. And so it is good. And I think these smaller churches are very interesting because people tend to forget about them because it's either, oh, it's the Russian religion or it's the Greek religion, right?
yeah, no,
And so it's very sort of heartening to see
I love what the Georgians have been saying. Didn't they canonize or make Father Seraphim Rose a saint? I can't remember, but um, I get behind them for a lot of stuff.
It's a good country too. It's highly religious country,
Yeah.
which is what you would imagine people would be excited about in terms of an Orthodox country, right?
Yeah, and I don't know. I also want to touch on a previous point where
Okay.
it's like you're talking about the conflicts between the Miaphysites and the Eastern Romans, and I'm preaching to the choir kind of, but like wars of religion, they're not actually about religion, right? There's that old Irish joke, are you a Protestant or are you Catholic? And then the guy says, I'm an atheist, and then the other guy goes, well, are you a Protestant atheist or a Catholic atheist?
Yeah.
It's really not like people in you're from Lebanon, I'm sure sectarian violence, and it's just like these people lived with each other for 1,000 years, and all of a sudden they realize now that their religion matters to them. It's frequently like economic and various other pressures.
Yeah, I talk about that because you mentioned it in my book, The Place of the Believers. I talk about how a lot of those conflicts. It's weird how it's like you said, like they were together for centuries. Yeah, okay, there would be moments of this flare up of violence, but then it's like out of nowhere in World War One, like on every side of that Ottoman Empire that's collapsing, people are just going crazy trying to annihilate each other. And it's like, well, they weren't doing that 300 years before this for the most part. So you're right. A lot of times it does end up being political and economic things. Ethelrod, 199 USD. Thank you for the super chat. Greetings from Alaska. Awesome. So we've got Alaska and we've got Maui, the far parts of the United States. MT says, my generation, all they do is eat McDonald's, charge they phone, eat hot chips, and lie. Well, I don't know if I can refute that. Actually, I was going to ask, so turbo diesel, have you noticed anything in terms of the different generations in Lithuania? Like, are the younger generations at least a little interested in learning about this stuff, or are they totally atheist? What's it like over there?
I think most of them are atheists. I'm not really tapped into like social medias and that kind of stuff, so my information is very, poor. But for the most part, I think if they want some sort of traditionalism, if they want some sort of conservatism, that kind of stuff, they usually go to some form of paganism. Unfortunately, most of them are atheists. Some of them find church, whatever that might be. I think most of them just go to Catholicism or Protestantism.
I see. Yeah, it's good to know. I'm always curious about the Baltic states because, I mean, technically you're not really the same as the rest of Eastern Europe, but you guys obviously are not ethnically Russian. So it's an interesting part of Europe that I don't know too much about. I do know, obviously, that there are Orthodox minorities in Lithuania where you are, also in Latvia and Estonia. And I know that Finland used to have a lot more Orthodox. But other than that, I don't know too much about that corner. But is it the same sentiment you would say in Latvia and Estonia that it's mostly a very secularized or atheist environment?
I would guess so, yeah. Like as I said, I don't know much about the what's on the ground, so to speak.
Sure. No, that's fair. That's fair.
I
Here in
live in
America,
the outskirts of like Lithuania, so I'm just a humble farmer.
oh, okay. That's good though. I was gonna say here in America, it really depends on the region. America is a very diverse country, so depends where you are. You could run into basically an entirely different civilization based on where you are in the country.
Yeah, it's very atomized, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Have you guys been paying attention to some? I don't know if any of you are on Twitter. I try not to go on it more than a couple minutes a day. Well, okay, good. You're missing the 90th debate of the week.
It's a spiritual black hole.
Yeah, it's pretty
To
bad.
even read those comments, it's not worth it at all.
I agree.
Yeah, I did 4chan from ages 14 to 25 before I started becoming religious, and I know what like internet cesspool looks like. So I just avoid all that crap.
That's good. It's a good thing that you guys don't know then. That's actually a good thing. Yeah, I try to encourage people to use the internet productively. Doesn't mean you can't ever use it, but use it productively. And I like having these streams, even if it's in the middle of the night, because at least we're people talking to each other, and there's no like flashy edits or TikTok Vine boom sounds. We're just discussing in a chat room the way the old internet used to be, and so I kind of like that the most.
Yeah, I don't remember the old internet. I was too poor growing up for that. But, yeah, I don't know. I saw you went live. I figured it's been a while since I called in, and I just got done with the evening service. I'm gonna miss. I'm upset. I would take time off of work, but I needed the hours. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna miss the Ascension liturgy.
Okay.
I wanted to see it for the first time. So whatever. I'll see it next year.
Oh, that's the day.
That's good. Yeah, at least you could watch it online. That's another productive usage of the internet right there.
Yep.
Definitely. All right. Well, I've got to close out, guys. So thank you very much for calling in. I'll do my last remarks for the night, and then I guess I'll probably see some of you guys. If not next stream, then maybe the stream after that. Thank you very much for calling in, guys.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you to everybody who called in today. Definitely enjoyed. I think we had a good panel, good conversation. So like I said a moment ago, the reason I do these streams is not because I think I'm going to get 9,000 views and a shower of praise. The big views really only come when I'm doing a live react to a really, really popular debate that like just happened. So, that Cliff Connecty thing with the Oriental Orthodox guy in the university, that gets a lot of views. The Jay Dyer, Sam Shamoon drama gets a lot of views. A casual stream like this, I mean, still pretty good. Like we're at a good 55 live viewers, and it's been between 35 and 60 for the whole run, which is not bad for middle of the night talking about kind of not quite the most, controversial topic. So for those who are just coming in who may want to watch the replay, I discussed the global reality of Christianity very, very briefly, talked about where it's growing in the world, which is primarily in China, other parts of Asia, and in sub-Saharan Africa, not necessarily places that 150 years ago you would associate with Christianity. And the places you would associate with it historically from the Middle Ages up until now, or up until recently, Western Europe, the United States, Canada, are the ones losing their religion most. So it's interesting that the tables have now turned. We talked about, how can Orthodoxy grow? Is it growing? Why is it growing? Where is it growing? And then we had some guests call in. Had our first Lithuanian, probably first and only Lithuanian viewer, discuss the politics and the culture there, which was quite interesting in relation to the Orthodox Church and the political issues with Russia and Ukraine and so on. So that's about it. I will probably do an actual recorded video with some edits about the global reality, although I think I've done that a few times, so we'll see. I'm also want to do, the reality of Orthodoxy in X country. We will be covering that in a stream or a video of sorts. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for calling in. Someone asked for a bookshelf tour. Well, I don't have that at the moment, as in I don't really have much of a bookshelf. I just have a stand that I put a couple of my books on. But someone had asked me, because I know not all of you look at the community posts. That's fine. Let's just get it out there. So I'm doing a third and final version of my very first book, The Misunderstood Bible. After this, I'm never touching this book again. And honestly, after the last 2 days editing it, I don't want to touch it again. It now sickens me to have to edit that book ever again. But I'm pleased with it. I reformatted it. I added 3 to 4 new chapters, plus I added a few, pages to some chapters that I thought, looking back on it now, there may be a chapter where it ended on a weak point, or I don't like how I phrased a certain topic. Changed all of that around. So now the book is between, depending on the copy I get and how I like the formatting, it'll be between 460 to 500 pages. So it's huge. I took all versions of the Misunderstood Bible off of Amazon and the Misunderstood Apostle, because that was always meant to be a companion to that book anyway. So if you're wondering why can't I buy those, that's why they're not on there right now, but they will be in the third version, and then that'll just be it. Not touching that book again. So if you're interested in my other books, you can check them out. As for topics coming up, like I said, we're going to do some more not map, but like demography. What is Orthodoxy looking like in this country or that country? Maybe some reactions to what the Pope is doing, and then some pre-recorded HD topics that I think all of you guys are going to like. So that's about it for now. Thank you for tuning in to the show and watch this scene from my youth.
System is dialing.
That it is. System is dialing.
It's still freezing. So I just open the door when it buzzes.
Wait. Let me call him.
No, open the door.
Yeah, let me give the ring.
Just got my hand ready.
Hey, it's me, Jed. I'm here. All right, awesome.
Thanks, Dad.
No problem. All right, we're gonna get it open. Try to open it. No, come on. It doesn't work. All right.
I guess it's just gonna come down and open it.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Do you see him?
No, also, I'm just looking down. I'm sorry, open the. Oh wow! Why the hell are cards in my pocket?
Cards? Dude, you remind me of Paul Rossetti. Jeez.
Oh, hey Dylan.
Yo!